To have everyone waiting for the clock to turn. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Going to call this meeting to order. It is 6:30, the regular meeting of council for September 24th. The town of Smithers acknowledges the Gidim Den clan and the Wet'suwet'en people on whose unceded traditional territory we live, work, and play. The public is notified that the meeting is being recorded and webcast, a notice of which is on the bulletin board outside these chambers. Council, you have the agenda and we are removing item 14.1. Now you can renumber from that point forward, but just one. So if I can have a motion, please, to approve the agenda with that amendment. Councillor Raven, Councillor Elliott, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried unanimously. We do have a delegation this evening and I see them back there. So I'll invite the folks from the situation table forward. I think you know the drill, but just in case, please come on forward. The little circle on the mic stands activates the mic. And if you don't mind, just for the recording to identify yourselves, and then we'll turn it over to you with the delegation. And I know you are old hats at this, or old hands at this, I guess. About 10 minutes for your presentation, a few minutes for questions after that. So welcome.
Great, awesome. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us here tonight. My name is Jocelyn Floydart, and I am a police officer and also a registered social worker here in the community. I help coordinate the table along with my co-worker, Bronwyn Young.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much again for having us here. My name is Bronwyn Young. My day job is Director of Shelters and Housing for Northern Society for Domestic Peace, and I also help co-chair the situation table.
So we're here today to really discuss three rather large topics. The first is the integrated program agreement that I've sent that outlines how the situation table operates. We're also tonight going to review the data collected from the situation table from January to September. We're going to share our community's top risk factors that we're noticing, as well as significant gaps in services that we're facing in our community. So the first item is the integrated program agreement. So this is a document that all situation tables in BC are required to sign. It establishes the operational framework of the table. It ensures that community systems leaders commit to sending their frontline service providers to participate. For the government agencies like MCFD, Public Safety Solicitor General, and the RCMP, participation is endorsed provincially by our ministers, as well as the commanding officer of BC. Local leaders such as the town of Smithers, who play an active role in the table, which is why we're here today to seek the mayor's signature for our document. As you can see in the integrated program agreement, all the local partners are listed, demonstrating the broad community support that we have for this initiative. So I think I'll just pause there and see if there's any questions about that piece.
Okay, thanks. Any questions on part one? I think we're good.
Perfect.
Thanks.
So for the data I want to share today, we've observed some changes in our data from last year to this year. As of now, we've received 61 referrals to the situation table in 2024. Last year, we ended off the year with 61 referrals in total. So we're seeing an increase in demand this year. And we're also seeing an increase in referrals from service providers who are using the table. The primary risk factors driving referrals to the table are the same as last year. That is lack of appropriate housing, drug abuse, and alcohol abuse. This year, referrals have predominantly come from the RCMP, followed by Northern Society for Domestic Peace, as well as Bylaw. Bylaw was not among the top 3 originating agencies last year, and I believe this shift is largely due to the proactive approach of our new community safety officer, who's engaging with the community daily and bringing more referrals to the table. The top 3 lead agencies this year is different from last year. It's the RCMP leading, followed by Northern Society for Domestic Peace and Northern Health. So that's a shift from last year. And before I explain that shift, I want to make sure everyone's clear about the difference between the originating agency and the lead agency. So the originating agency refers to the organization that initially submits the referral to the situation table, which the majority of the time is the RCMP. The lead agency is the organization best positioned to manage the situation based on the individual's risks and needs, whether related to housing, health, or social services. So ideally, the agencies that specialize in addressing these risk factors would take the lead in these cases. So I think it's important to share that, like, I've had the opportunity to focus on this work, positioning myself, at the RCMP detachment as the lead agency. So what I've been able to do is address gaps and meet needs as they arise, which has moved us into the top for leading these interventions. We're in a very unique situation where a lot of my energy is dedicated to coordinating the table and ensuring that the agencies stay connected to the individuals. And my role really involves identifying the gaps and stepping in where no resources are available. Northern Society for Domestic Peace is also playing a significant role, partnering me to fill the gaps that other agencies don't have the capacity to address. So many of us are taking on multiple roles. Due to service gaps in the community, I see NSDP, the First Nations Health Authority, and the Social Development taking on more and more work to meet our clients' needs. These demands are stretching us very thin, and the workload is simply not sustainable. Also, many of us recently are starting to suffer from moral distress. A common misconception that we're encountering in community is that the individuals we're supporting are choosing to live at risk. And over the past year of intensive outreach, especially with our homeless women, it's become clear that this is not the case to us. Much of our progress in building relationships stems from our partnership with the town during the uplifts. This has really allowed us to connect with individuals who are hard to reach. While some may initially hesitate to accept help due to really a lack of awareness of what's available, through consistent respect and compassion and time, they've all expressed a desire to us for change. The real challenges lie in their ability to access the necessary support, so we really have to walk alongside them, providing daily assistance. And this is complicated by a lack of local treatment resources. If we had more treatment options available in the community, people would readily access them. Currently, there are significant barriers to seeking treatment in the Lower Mainland or the island. As a result, families that we've been seeing come to the situation table are advocating directly with Minister Whiteside after seeing our dedicated efforts to support their family, but the local health resources just not available to meet their needs. So there's been quite a bit of discussion in community about the need for a low barrier shelter. We also really need low barrier health services. Intensive outreach and case management are critical. Services that don't require appointments, where people can meet them where they're at, whether in encampments, shelters, around the street, providing immediate care. Culturally safe, trauma-informed care must be prioritized to build trust and create a sense of safety within our system that many don't have. We have been filling this gap, doing this work ourselves, which has allowed us to help move people out of the encampment and into treatment. We have been very, very successful. We know these services are needed because we've seen the impact and we're doing the work, but it's important to note that these are technically not part of our job and we can't sustain this without dedicated resources. I think I want to highlight just the heavy burden I see my team carrying. Everyone's working tirelessly, successfully assisting with housing transitions, completing treatment applications, and providing personalized one-on-one support. We've been very successful, but the intensity of our workload isn't sustainable. Several team members are nearing burnout, and we really need additional health resources. I just really want to extend my deepest thanks to our mayor for her unwavering support and advocacy for our community, especially at the recent UBCM. I see you and I hear you fighting for additional resources, and your efforts are so greatly appreciated by our team. We need the province to listen to our calls for support so that we continue doing our work without compromising our own well-being.
Thanks, Jocelyn, for everything that you're doing and for the words that you said. I'm just going to look to the table because you said you had 3 subjects and I feel like you've gone through 2. So I'll just look to the table First of all, tell me, do you have more things that you need to go through?
That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Council, questions? Councillor Raven.
So you referenced the need for additional health resources. And I know, as you mentioned, the mayor and council have been working and tirelessly advocating. Can you specify what would be helpful? Because that can also help with our asks. Because sometimes, unfortunately, we are a bit broad because we don't 100% know. And if there's anything specific you could kind of tease out for us.
I'll start and then I'll pass it off to Bronwyn and see if she has anything to add. I see intensive outreach and case management being crucial, as well as perhaps a CAR program. I know that that's been tossed around quite a bit, but I think if we had a CAR program where we had a dedicated, RCMP clinician role that could really get out into the community, meet people where they're at, address those needs right in the moment, without appointments, that would be something that I think our community could really benefit from.
And also, this is likely not a surprise to anybody, but detox is very far from here. And to have somebody ready to go to detox, to be told that they need to travel on a bus independently to a town at least 4 hours away is a barrier that most are not able to get past. So in-town detox would be amazing.
Thanks, Bronwyn. Jocelyn. Councillor Leonard.
Just thinking while you're talking, Jocelyn, you had said that you've been very successful in getting people into treatment. So, but then you just mentioned that they might not always go to detox. So what does a successful placement in treatment look like? And is that in community or is it outside?
It's out of community, and it's incredibly intensive work that involves really daily one-on-one work from myself in terms of, supporting with that treatment application, supporting our team, supporting with getting the identification that's required to go to treatment that can take months to obtain, writing letters, to airport security to, advocate that this person traveled, down to the Lower Mainland or the island for treatment, helping with everything like packing, and making sure that they're ready to make this change, appealing to the health authority and First Nations Health, writing requests for escorts because a lot of our folks can't travel on their own. So one of our team members will often travel with them to go. It's a lot of barriers to go to get that individual the health support that they need that is usually in the Lower Mainland or the island. So there's a lot of different steps that people have to go through to get there. And it often takes one of us from our team escorting that person to treatment because they need that additional support to get there on their own.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Councillor Buikema.
Where on the island are people typically going for treatment? Is it Victoria or elsewhere?
Yeah, we're seeing people going to Victoria. There are some places down in Surrey or the Lower Mainland. The treatment centers I'm getting familiar with through First Nations Health on the island are just a lot more culturally safe for a lot of our folks in our community and a lot more trauma informed than maybe like the clinical ones that I see some folks go to in the Lower Mainland. So it's also having that culturally safe treatment option that we're really lacking in the North specifically, and finding that for our folks to make sure that their process is culturally safe and trauma informed is also challenging. If we had more treatment options, more culturally safe treatment options closer to our community, we would see a lot more people accessing that health resource.
Any other questions? It feels like the most pathetic thing I have to say is I know and I believe you. And maybe because I can't really articulate right now what next steps would be, because probably I can't figure them out. But perhaps something I could offer is a little bit of a sit down and maybe we could strategize. I made 2 columns as you were speaking. I think there's a health column and there's a community safety column. And you live in both of you. But what you focused on is really making clear the health need. And maybe we should just try to write that stuff down and hone, Councillor Raven called it the advocacy. So hone the advocacy and try to just hammer home on the asks. I recognize that every community is going through this. I think what you have provided at the situation table is the clarity and the leg up for some. And that seems like something we ought to be able to stand on when we go forward asking specifically for this town, but also recognition across the province for small towns. I think, the need is extraordinary in big cities. It's extraordinary in mid-sized towns, but it's no different here. It's just per capita. And it feels like we're less likely to get the resources here. A lot of what you described, Jocelyn, I think, and Bronwyn, is the need for resources and people. And that's no amount of money. I mean, it helps to have money to pay people, but we can't manufacture the people to do the work that you're doing. So that's one piece, being able to attract the people here to share the burden that you're clearly bearing. And then the other things, the shelter, the facilities, the detox beds. So I guess right back at you, I see you and I hear you and I'm grateful for the work you do. And perhaps that's just something that we could follow up with and maybe come up with some points that we can then help with and we're all pushing together. Doesn't sound like much, but it's all I can think of right now.
I feel like at this point, anything helps, and communication and collaboration always gets us farther.
And I always have ideas. So,
That always makes me a little bit happy and a little bit worried, so it's okay.
as it should.
Any last comments or questions from the table? Councillor Raven.
Just echoing what the mayor has already said, but just thank you so much. I see the work that you guys do. And I have said for many, many years, it takes a special person to do what your group is doing. And we are incredibly blessed in this community to have people that are doing the work and doing it well. So thank you.
Thanks so much. And the request is later on the agenda for the agreement. So you're welcome to stay and hang out with us, or we can fill you in later as you wish for your evening. I think there's coffee in the back should you wish to stay with us and stay up. Thanks so much. Okay. So we are at the public comment period. We don't have a public hearing this evening. So at this point, if there's someone in the gallery, and I know there's a couple of people that want to speak to different issues, I'm just going to invite you to come up any particular order. And when you get to the delegation table, same thing. I think you've all been there, but press the red circle. It activates the mic. And if you don't mind just giving your name and where you're from, just here for the recording clerk is helpful. So you can see people, we've got library people, come on up.
Good evening. My name is Christine Tessier. I am chair of the Smithers Library Board. And I'm here today in regards to what was agenda item 14.5, but has been renumbered, which is the Green and Inclusive Community Building Program. So this grant aligns perfectly with the library. We are community, we are inclusive, and our strategic priorities include environmental sustainability and viability. Now, I could go on forever as to the reasons why we need a new library, and I'm sure most of you have heard many times over all those reasons. But this evening, I just want to outline 3 spaces that really work with community, and that would be part of our plan. We had come up with a blueprint in 2018, which will need some tweaking, but it would include, for example, a meeting room. The library gets a weekly request for meeting rooms. We don't have them at the library. And apparently they're very hard to get in town. And so this would be something that would be accessible to the community, to businesses and organizations. The second thing is some small rooms. Now, small rooms can be used for a variety of reasons. But one of the things the library staff is qualified for is to invigilate exams. And right now, when somebody wants to seat for an exam, they're doing it where everybody else is gathered. So there's a lot of distraction. This would allow these students, adult, otherwise, to come in and have a quiet place where they could write their exam. We encourage people to do distance education. And so we want to encourage them as well in this manner and open it up to the community.
So you have 1 minute.
Oh, that's what that means. Okay, I'll hurry up. The third one is the youth safe space. We would like one of the larger rooms to be a youth safe space. We don't have a room specifically for teenagers right now. They sit on the floor between the shelves. We want to be a little more welcoming as well. Not-for-profit youth organizations could certainly rent that space. So it isn't just about the library. It's also about the community. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Appreciate it. Okay, and is there anyone else in the gallery? Because I think there is, who wanted to speak to an item that's on the agenda. I'll welcome you up. No, any item. So come on up, Dave. I wasn't sure if there were more library people behind you, but. Oh,
Red dot on, perfect. Mayor, Council, my name is Dave Harris, owner of Bulkley Valley Brewery on First Ave. I'm here to talk about getting a permanent addition to my outdoor patio. The outdoor patio that's currently there, we have one directly in front of the garage doors, which is a permanent one, or sorry, a seasonal permanent one. And then once COVID hit, we were allowed to expand the patio. And for the last 4 years, we've had our alleyway plus 3 feet of town property that is in addition to our side patio to get outdoor seating. It's been a very nice change of pace. It's great to have people outside. It's an awesome amenity for the community. You know, mothers will stop there throughout the day. Older people will stop there on a hot sunny day and just take a rest and sit down. It's a nice thing to have. We haven't had any real issues with it at nighttime with people being outside and drinking and hanging out. So we would like to make it more of a permanent fixture, and it will still be a seasonal fixture. So we'll take down every, I think it's October 31st and set up in May. I think that's it.
okay. Thank you. And it is item 17.1, so we will be dealing with it this evening. But thanks for coming and sharing that with us. Oh. So is there anyone else that wanted to speak to anything on the agenda before I move on? All righty. Then council, I think we are at the minutes. So we have one set of minutes. Did I miss? Oh, I thought you were about to tell me I missed something. Let me get back to the agenda. 8.1, the minutes of September 10th. Motion to approve. Councillor Buikema, Councillor Ray. Any errors, omissions? All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried unanimously. Then we can skip right on to council reports. Councillor Buikema, you're up first.
Thank you, Mayor Attrell. First of all, there is a August visitor report in the package. It's there mainly for information, but I did want to highlight the fact that the visitor numbers to Smithers in the month of August were really healthy, which I think is something to celebrate. Then also on September 11th, I, along with Mayor Attrell, attended the Task Force on Public Safety meeting. Thought it was a good evening, although there were moments where frustrations were high. But I feel like the task force is working really hard at finding solutions to some of those frustrations that exist within our community relating to public safety. And then finally, I just want to express my appreciation for the opportunity we had to attend UBCM last week. I thought it was just a wonderful week of learning and of interacting with cabinet ministers and also with one another. So I just want to say thank you that we as a group had an opportunity to attend UBCM last week. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Buchanan. Sorry, my mic was on. Apologies. Any questions for Councillor Buchanan? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. I am a little bit sad that I didn't get to go to UBCM, but I was in another part of the world enjoying the fruits and wines and all those things, so I wasn't too sad, but I do enjoy those. Last year was really enjoyable, so I'm sure you had a great time. Not much report. I didn't make the library meeting. Of course, I was not around, but you can see the report in the agenda. And Christine spoke to some of the reasons why a new library would be really great. One of the things that it seems our circulation of books and usage has gone up this year quite substantially, and I think quite a bit more than last year, probably because of the COVID outbreak. But I think our library is getting a lot of use and a lot of providing a lot of services, as you can see in the report. So many good things being done there. Some good people working there, so I appreciate everything they're doing. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Elliott. And I think there was the one little extra we were going to say. Over to you if you would like.
Yes, thank you. Yes, that I believe our library is the highest per capita usage in Canada or in the province, BC. So that's pretty amazing for this little town. So I think we have the residents of Smithers to thank for that.
Thanks, Councillor Elliott. Any questions for Councillor Elliott? It's a good chance to grill him. Councillor Leonard.
I don't think Councillor Elliott is sad that he missed UBCM at all, but anyway, I will echo Councillor Buchanan's comments, and I was very grateful to attend UBCM last week with my fellow councillors and the mayor. And for me, it was really sort of tied all, the whole circle of this journey of being a councillor together, and it really just sort of finished the loop for me. And now I get it, and how the advocacy works, and meeting with the ministers and staff, and really lobbying for our community. And it was wonderful. Can't wait for next year.
Thanks, Councillor Leonard. Where are we at? Councillor Patterson is on leave. Councillor Raven.
So I was able to distribute my report. Just a couple highlights was the Job Street Fair on September the 12th. That was hosted by our local Work BC. They had a wide range of sectors represented, including our own town of Smithers. And it was just really neat to see so many high school students able to come through and also see what opportunities there are out there. Sometimes I think there's a bit of tunnel vision for our high school students. So it's really neat that they can get a bit of a wider path. Echoing about UBCM, it just really is my favorite week. We work so hard year round to advocate. So to be able to sit across from a minister and actually just really hopefully put a face and just our passion behind our community out there. And just extreme gratitude to everybody that was able to attend. I'm going to say it, like Team Town Smithers was a dream team. I think we did a really good job, and it was just really good to just be down there and working so hard for our community.
Thanks, Councillor Raven. Councillor Ray.
Yes, so I also attended UBCM. It was a little less hectic than last year with minister meetings, but just hearing from the situation table, just sometimes it's very frustrating going in and advocating. And I've noticed a little bit of a shift in our advocacy. We're having to be more aggressive. That's the kind of tact we're taking, polite still, but a little more insistent that, I've heard the mayor say several times over the last couple of years in forums that small communities matter too. It's a matter of scale, and you can't put all your money into Vancouver. We have problems as well, and we can't wait until all of Vancouver's are fixed. before we move on to Prince George and Kelowna and Kamloops. And then, yeah, we need the help now. And I think that's the message that we've really been trying to hammer home a little more, is we're not just there advocating for our community, but all small communities. So that, as you might imagine, is met with more enthusiasm by some ministers than others. But all in all, we go back every year carrying the same messages. And this year there were some really good meetings where we got some good news about things, and there were some more frustrating meetings, but that seems to be how it goes always. But just know that every time we go down there, we're advocating as hard as we can.
Thanks, Councillor Ray. And council, I don't think I'm going to repeat any of that. We'll just move on, and I'll hope to take a bit of time to present something in writing to the next meeting and make clear more what I think we accomplished, but rather than my trying to recall it on the fly. So in my report is just the standing report of strategic priorities, and we know that we do have a meeting coming up. I can't remember what the date is, but Mr. Dewar will remind us when it's the right time to talk about the strategic priorities coming up soon. So with that, we are off to the staff reports, and I'm just going to use the old numbers because I'm going to make a mistake. So let's just go to the report from Mr. George. It was 14.2 on the situation table integrated program agreement, and there is a recommendation that we sign that agreement. Councillor Ray. Councillor Ray moves, Councillor Buckham seconds. Any discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried unanimously. Thanks again for your work. We don't generally get many thumbs up from the gallery, just saying, but thank you for that. Okay, next report from Ms. LeBlanc on the social media policy. A recommendation to sign the policy. Any discussion on it? Somebody want to move it? Councillor Raven moves. Seconder, Councillor Buckham. Okay, it's good to see the policy come, and I know at another table I sit at, sometimes, you know, people are concerned with what might be in the future, and with all policies, this is something that lives, and if there's changes either from the staff perspective or council, it can come back and we modify as needed. So great to see it in place. With that, then, all in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried unanimously. Next up, report from Ms. Berriman on the REDIP program grant application with a recommendation. Councillor Elliott moves. Councillor Buckham. So this is a recommendation to apply for a grant for $124,000 to support ECDEV related projects. Any discussion? Councillor Raven.
Not discussion so much as a comment. I just wanted to highlight the airport leakage study. And I know that we've been working so hard to try and prove how many people that we're losing to flights to neighboring airports. And I really look forward, if we're successful with this grant, to be able to have the data to support our advocacy for our airport. I was really excited to see that. Interesting name, though.
Thanks, Councillor Raven. Anyone else? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried unanimously. All righty. So report from Ms. Berriman. This is the library grant application with with a staff recommendation. Anyone want to move the recommendation or start us any other way? Councillor Ray? Moving? Councillor Buckham seconds. Okay, so the recommendation is on the floor, which is to engage with the library board and staff to review the existing concept design and develop a more detailed, feasible design to move towards shovel ready. Any discussion? Councillor Leonard.
I was a little confused on this. Are we proposing to spend $24 million on a library?
Mr. Dewar.
No, the recommendation would be that we work with the library to further develop the project for future opportunities.
Okay, so it would come back to council. Okay.
Yeah, Councillor Leonard, anything, I can't remember the amount of money, but anything over a little bit always comes back to council. And anything that value would trigger some sort of voter assent. So there would be a big process before anything like that were actually approved. I don't know, without a finance, does anyone remember what the amount is before we have to trigger voter assent?
It's in there.
Oh, it is in there, so I've forgotten it. Okay,
7 million, I think.
okay.
I guess I'll just put my thoughts on the table. I mean, back when it was a $15 million price tag, a lot of people in the community thought it was excessive. And I'm not disputing that we need a new library. We do, but I think for a community of our size, we have to be sensible about the spend and the size. You know, I'm reading it's 14,000 square feet, which is huge. So I just, if it's going back to staff and we're looking at those plans, and then I'm good to support that.
Go ahead, Mr. Dewar.
And I'll just add one aspect of the Rural Economic Diversification Grant that where you have councils just approved is looking at some of that institutional strategic planning. So institutional facility of strategic planning.
Anything else, Councillor Leonard? Okay, anyone else? Councillor Bucama?
First of all, a question to staff. I'm wondering if someone on staff is able just to say a little bit more about the word feasible that's in the recommendation. I feel like I need to have that fleshed out a bit for me.
While staff are thinking, I'm going to just jump in because it's a word that we can interpret, and because it would come back to council. I think, you know, we could, what I consider feasible might be different than what you do. So I think it's a fairly subjective word. I don't know if anyone wants to tackle it, but I'm not sure that's the word that we would hang on this evening. Mr. Dewar?
Yeah, I think that's a good summarization of it. Just further develop the concept behind the library to make sure it meets the needs of our community as it exists at presently.
Councillor Bucama?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I asked the question is I feel like our community is all over the map when it comes to what they want to see in a library. There's some people who would be excited about a $24 million library. There's some people who won't be. There's some people who feel like they'd be perfectly satisfied with a $10 million library. And that's why that word feasible to me is such a key word. And I guess that's the reason for my question. I guess I'm probably like Councillor Leonard when I see the tax implications on a community that feels very heavily taxed already. Yeah, a $24 million library to me is potentially a luxury, even though I will be very careful to say that I am all for a new library. I've served on the library board for 6 years and I truly appreciate the work they do. It's just what is an appropriate size for a community our size. That's why I bring it up.
Thanks, Councillor Bucama. Councillor Craven?
Yeah, and just jumping in on that is feasible and reasonable, I think. So just like Councillor Bucama, I definitely see the need for a new library. It's just looking at different amounts, is just making sure that we're being reasonable and able for it to be attainable, because we can have the best pie in the sky and most wonderful space, but if we can't get the grant funding to support it because it's too big or too much or too anything, then it's actually a waste of everybody's time. And that being said, I do not remember which community I was talking to. It was at UBCM, and they were actually replacing their library, and they ended up going, to each of their architects, they said they wanted reasonable, feasible, functional. That was what they really drilled down. And the first project came back double budget, what they had put out to their architect. They fired that architect, went to another architect. Second one was closer, and it was actually the third architect that actually listened and came in at their budget. So just that kind of thinking is if we could be very, very clear and prescriptive, because I want a goal that's attainable. I think that's what I really, really want. I do want a new library, just making sure it's, something we can do rather than a pretty drawing on a billboard somewhere.
Councillor Ray?
So just a little bit of historical context. So this recent iteration came out of hearing from the community that perhaps we should be combining everything so that we didn't have a lineup of cultural amenities. First, we'll build the library, then we'll build a gallery, then we'll build a museum. And I think, if I recall correctly, there is a process for that, and it came up way more. And I would, without trying to get myself into trouble, I would say that again, that was an instance where council had made it fairly clear, we thought, that we wanted this to be an affordable option. And it wasn't even a drawing. It was going to be a lot more money than this was. So at council, we had a discussion, and kind of a compromise was maybe we can get the gallery and the library working together. And this is, council voted to do so, and council threw its weight behind this, this project that we have most recently. There was, and I think talking about dusting things off, my memory isn't the greatest. I can't remember what the library design before that process looked like. I can't remember if there were meeting rooms. It was significantly smaller, but it was bigger, way bigger than the one that the library that we have now. I would suggest that might be a place where we might start to look at a compromise between the two. Going to, if we chose to move forward with this project, there are other ways to do this other than going, it would require voter assent, but rather than raising taxes, we could choose to do a couple things. We could take out the money over 5 years and a 5-year loan and use most of the RBA money each year to do it. We could choose to, I think, take a fairly reasonable approach that the RBA will be continued. I can't see anybody knocking it off after 5 years, but it would be a risk. But we could just pay the servicing out of the RBA money every year for however long. So we can do it without taxation, but we haven't had that RBA discussion. The RBA is there to help us with infrastructure needs, and the library is an infrastructure need. I think that if we were to just go this route, we had a lot of discussion last time we applied, because all of a sudden there was a grant and we had to submit a Class D estimate. And we were asking for a fair portion of, not fair, we were asking for a large portion of the money available. So I think, I think it can be done if we got, if we submitted the project as is and got the grant. I think we can do it without raising taxes, but we have to be willing to commit RBA money. The other thing that we need to really think about, though, is can we afford to run the building that we build? And with a new building is going to come an expectation of probably expanded hours. Because because the library and the library board has done a very good job of running a lot of programs out of a very small space. My thought would be that as soon as we get a larger space, there are programs that the library looks at and just can't run. So I think that needs to be a bit of a part of the conversation. It's going to be hard to get this all together for an October 16th application, but I think it's certainly worth talking about. So I'll support the motion as is, and then hopefully when we get into talking about the RBA, we can talk about some maybe strategies on how we would handle any large project.
Thanks, Councillor Ray. Councillor Bucama.
Councillor Ray made reference to the fact there's a plan in our package, and then there was another plan before that. I feel like Wally Bergen has access to that information, and if that is something town staff would like to see, I feel like Wally might be the person to contact.
Thanks, Councillor Bucama. I see Councillor Ray, but I'll go ahead, Councillor Ray.
Sorry, I was trying to find it before. It should be like the plans may still live with the Development Services Department, maybe in the vault, but There were certainly enough times when it came to the public agenda that with some digging, somebody might be able to find it. I'm willing to try, but so far I haven't had much luck.
Thanks, Councillor Ray. Councillor Buchanan, was that your comment? Was just in terms of looking for
Yeah,
that?
just-
Okay.
I just thought if there was an interest in being able to see the original plan, that I'm quite sure that Wally has access to it.
Councillor Leonard.
Just to follow up on Councillor Ray's comment about, that there should be consideration for whether we can afford this. That is one of the thoughts that I had reading through this. The costs of maintaining a 14,000 square foot building are, well, they'll be much more. And obviously none of us in this room and likely staff hasn't done that analysis. Because if there are expanded programs, there will be more staff. There's light, heat and power. There's all kinds of costs, right? So I would suggest that, that fiscal planning should be part of, it should be included in the design of what this looks like and how big it is. Sorry, because we will be on the hook in perpetuity for the costs.
Thanks, Councillor Leonard. Just because we've been talking about the square footage, Mr. Allen, can you remind me how many square feet this building is?
The town hall is 12,500 square feet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think there's been lots of good things said. I don't actually know what I think at this particular moment on what design we ought to consider going forward. I do think lots has changed since the original plan that Councillor Ray has referenced, or Councillor Buchanan. A lot has changed since the more recent plan. Costs are a lot more. And what the more recent plan also had built into its price a pretty significant cost escalation of the anticipated price. I think it's a lot more now, like things just cost a lot more now. At the same time, I do think as a community, we have to figure our way through these amenities. So we probably all remember, even though most of us wouldn't have been on council, what the community conversation was around the arena. Lots of people really wanted arena. Lots of people think we didn't need an arena. It depends on whether or not you wanted to be in the arena, whether or not you had kids who wanted to go to the arena, whether your kids actually preferred to go to the ski hill. Like, the community conversation is often based on what the individual wants to do and whether or not they think it's important. I've heard the same about the library. Nobody reads books anymore. We don't need a library. People figure that that's all that happens, which is why I wanted that little reference that our library is a community center, and it does a lot more than book lending or video lending. And so as a community and as the council of this community, we're going to have to make a determination on how valuable that amenity is. And if we're going to try to pursue development of the amenity in some real way, because we've taken, I wasn't around for round one, but we've taken a couple of kicks at this. It's clear that there is a desire to build a library. It's only getting more expensive. So coming up with some boundaries around it, I actually think, with our previous director of finance had also been investigating a little bit about combining a library with housing. So it doesn't have to be cheap housing. It could be expensive housing. Housing actually has a rate of return. I mean, there's all kinds of directions that one could take there that would make the building more expensive to build, but would also have a return over time. So I think there's lots of things that could go into the table. That doesn't actually help this, but I would like us, I believe we need to take the library project seriously, and it's not going to come without cost. And once we get through that, we are going to have to champion that piece. So they're not free, but they're necessary. And so as we work through, if the time comes to do a voter assent, it takes people to explain the value and explain what you're getting for your money. And we've got, we have other loans that are coming to end. We have done borrowing before. Nobody likes to see that sort of sitting, in the financial plans, but that's how we get stuff. It's a part of how we get stuff, is to do borrowing. So manage the cost, manage the expectation, but borrowing some money to share the cost of a multi-decade facility over multi-decades of people using it and paying through their taxes is not actually all wrong. So I think there's ways to go through this, but as we do it, we're going to have to believe in it and champion it as we go forward as well. So I think that's a really important piece, because if when it comes, we're dragging our heels, we'll never get through it. So I'm not sure if any of that was helpful. So 14,000 feet though does help if we think this one was 12. So we're sort of understanding the space if we're looking at any multi-purpose space. So I have no opinion on whether this is too big or too small at this point, but at least it gives us an idea what it is. All right, and I'm going to stop there. Were there any other comments, Councillor Ray?
Just one comment, and again, it really depends on whether we're aiming for October 16th to get an application in, but recently through budget, we've had a recognition from the regional district that capital is also a responsibility of Area A benefiting, and I don't really know how that fits in a really quick application, but if we're building an amenity that is serving a benefiting area, yet only the town of Smithers citizens are paying for it, is a little counter to that progress we've made. So again, you know, if we get a report before October 16th saying go for it, then we'll have to make a decision then. Yeah, I think that's part of it too, because the other thing is it's not just going to be town of Smithers taxpayers that are paying for the programs, and it will be the Area A benefiting area as well. So
Thanks, Councillor Ray. Recognizing Ms. Berriman is not here to answer, I'm not sure if anyone else can. When, you know, is there some sense of the work to do this and who's actually going to have the ability to just to get us through what's recommended here?
So the intention behind that would be not to hit the October 16th deadline for this funding or grant funding, but it'd be working long-term to better develop the project. So.
Okay, that works in my mind. Okay. Councillor Ray, were you about to say something?
no, just in support of the recommendation, it's got to be a better than Class D estimate if we're, you know, hopefully we can be ready for the next round of this. But shovel ready library is a lot different than a shovel ready than a few other things I can think of that they want shovel ready but would change over time. You know, a shovel ready project for a library should serve the community. If it's built now or in the next round, it should still serve the community fairly well. Yeah, if it's already ready and plans are forward thinking.
Thanks, Councillor Ray. Okay, any last comments? All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thanks, everyone. Where am I? Okay, final staff report from Acting Fire Chief DeVries, who is with us. And just a recommendation that we apply for UBCM Emergency Preparedness Fund money. Well, these titles are always just way too long. There's a lot of words in these recommendations. Okay, the recommendation is in front of you and we have our Acting Fire Chief here. So does anyone want to put that on the floor? Councillor Raven, Councillor Elliott. Acting Fire Chief DeVries, is there anything you wanted to add?
Only we got the same grant last year, and the radios that we did purchase through that money, which we're hoping to get more of, we have found to be much more effective than the previous iteration of older radios. So yeah, should we go forward, we'd be pretty excited to have that opportunity to purchase some more.
Thank you. Questions from the table? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we've got the 15s, the municipal markers. Any comments or questions for staff? Okay, moving along. And we are up to the 17s. We have one item, the letter from Mr. Harris, who is in the gallery, regarding the patio extension proposal. And maybe Mr. Dewar or Mr. Allen could help me. Is there a recommendation there?
Yeah, so staff have collaborated to propose the following recommendation that council approve the September 19th, 2024 request from Bulkley Valley Brewery to use town property for proposed extended patio at 3860 First Avenue.
Thanks, Mr. Dewar. Ms. Vendel, I'm not sure if that was shared. Are you okay? Okay, it's going to be shared. So there's the recommended motion. If I could have a mover. Counselor Raven and a seconder. Counselor Elliott and discussion. Counselor Ray.
So on the surface, I think it's a great idea, and I do support the recommendation. I am, and sorry, Mr. Harris, that we didn't get a chance to discuss this, so I hope I'm not really throwing you under the bus, but I have been concerned that we're nearing the end of the temporary use permit for the CCAN, and I kind of like to see this tied somehow to the CCAN being removed. You know, not you have to remove it first, but like this is contingent on it. Is that something we are able to do?
Mr. Allen.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Attrell, to Councillor Ray. So the temporary use permit for the CCAN in the back is it was a 3-year permit and it expires next June 2025. So the reason for this request at this point, which is not tied in with the temporary use permit for the CCAN, but Mr. Harris has also applied for a liquor license amendment to include this space. So staff felt it was prudent that Mr. Harris bring this to council to approve the additional 3 feet of sidewalk for this additional space prior to bringing the liquor license amendment to council at the next meeting.
Good, Counselor. Okay. Any other questions? Alrighty, I'm going to support as well. I think it gets blurry, the patio extensions that we approved during COVID and then made them a bit more permanent, and things just kind of carry on. I was a bit confused when I saw it originally, but things do tally up after a while, and it's been a long time since the original, whatever they were called. Mr. Allen gave me the phrase earlier, the TESSA rules during the pandemic. So we're finally getting to making things a bit more solidified resulting from that. So, okay. Any other questions? Ready? All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, that's it for 17s. Is there anything in the 18s that people wanted to pull out? Councillor Elliott.
I'm just going to plug for the forest industry again, 18.1, just the importance of future energy issues within our own province. And you can see, not in here, but in Europe, there's solutions for central heating and energy problems that are powered by wood and wood products. So I just wanted to remind everyone of that. That's all.
And we are reminded. Anything else in the 18s? Councillor Buckham, you have a furrowed brow. Okay, it's unfurrowed. All right. Okay, I'm not seeing anything else. A motion to adjourn. Oh, no, Councillor Buckham.
I was going to put my hand up and then we move quickly on to the next one. But one of the things I still struggle with is when I look at the airport numbers, they look so healthy. But it seems like whenever we hear talk about the airport, it always seems to be that the numbers aren't healthy, but I have a hard time coming to grips with that. Like when I look at August 2024 and compare it to previous August, like those are good numbers. I don't know. I'd love to have that explained to us once. And the airport manager is obviously not here tonight, so maybe that's a question for when he is here, but it is something I struggle with.
Thanks, Councillor Buchan. We can certainly put it on the agenda the next time Mr. Blackburn is here. I think one of the things that makes it easy to understand is that we'd have to go back to 2019 to be pre-COVID. And so in 2020, the numbers plummeted and that no longer sits on the chart. 2021, we were starting to come back. 2021, we went to partway through the year, a single flight. I'm just doing this from memory, so someone could tell me I'm wrong. And if we went back to about 2018, we had 2 carriers. So if we had a 10-year graph here, you would see it would become much more clear. And perhaps that's something we could just leave with Mr. Doer the next time Mr. Blackburn comes. Maybe we could have a 10-year chart and then we would understand some of the challenges I think that the airport is finding when, like, Councillor Way remember as well, like we used to, the airport income paid for the airport and built a reserve. And that just isn't the case anymore. So things have changed just with the circumstances around carriers, the losses that were seen through COVID. So we're definitely in a rebuilding. It's nice to see these numbers, but a longer chart would tell us a different story. I think Mr. Dury wanted to say something.
Yeah, absolutely. We can reflect that in future municipal markers, but we'll also be bringing forward a presentation at some point in the coming meetings to discuss long-term financing strategy for the airport.
Alrighty, thanks for that. Anything else? Okay, now I think a motion to adjourn, please. It was trickery the last time. Councillor Ray. Councillor Buckham is going to second this time, though. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Ms. Mendel, thank you. We're adjourned.